My Lords, I rise to speak to Amendments 44 and 45 in my name, which essentially have the same aim as Amendment 3 moved by the Noble Lord Oates, but simply intervene in the bill in a different place and in a different point in the process. The Noble Lord Oates was intervening at the designation stage. Mine, in Clause 44, intervenes at the stage of handing over the money. And I think we've had a very illuminating debate. And I can first of all make the point that as the Green Party, no one can accuse us of not having been consistent through the decades on nuclear power. And well, as has been the case with many issues, whether it's the climate emergency, the nature crisis, concern about air pollution, concern that we should have a real living wage, we've won all these arguments over time, and I fully expect that we will make the same progress here. Now, the Labour Lord said, "Oh, don't worry, the costs won't be borne immediately." I would point to your Lordship's House having recently passed the Future Generations Bill, an acknowledgement that we have already laid huge costs on future generation in terms of the destruction of the earth. And what we're talking about here is like buying a property and saying the ground rent in the future will be decided by a random number generator. And we don't know what the costs will be, but those costs of trying to dispose of this are there and exist. And I pick up the points of the Noble Lord Howell saying, "Oh, we've got the technological solutions." And the Noble Lord did indeed make a hint at the issue when he said that, why would future generations dig this up? We think about what we've done to the pyramids, to a great many ancient sites. There's this mysterious thing from the past. There might be treasures in there. And one of the great challenges of trying to decide deep geological disposal is the question of, do you mark it? Do you hide it? And if you mark it, how do you actually convey centuries, many centuries into the future that this is a dangerous place? And this is not a question that anyone has ever found an answer to, because there is no answer to this question. Now, I think it's really important that we focus on the question of there is no, and I'd be very interested actually in the Noble Lord the Minister's answer to this, because at second reading the Noble Lord Oates said there hadn't been much discussion of this, but I did actually raise the question of a geological disposal facility, and the Noble Lord the Minister told me then that there were 4 places where this was being consulted on. I asked the Noble Lord the Minister to identify those 4 places, and he said that he couldn't. I'd be interested to hear any updates on that, which does rather contradict the comments from the Noble Lord in front of me who said that 3 places had already decided. And I spoke at committee, at second reading, about my experience of being in Cumbria and seeing what resistance there was, even in a place that's broadly pro-nuclear power, to deep geological disposal. So, my Lords, you really do not make a purchase, particularly a purchase of public money, without knowing what the costs will be. And I have some sympathy with the amendments in the name of the Noble Lord Wigley and the Noble Lord Vaux in terms of their trying to make sure that the cost doesn't land on the public purse. Except the practical reality is we know that what we've seen is a great deal of socialisation of costs and privatisation of profits, and the state will always be the organisation where the costs have to be picked up, because the clean-up, the storage has to happen, and the state has to ensure the security of its people.